How a narcissistic husband treats his wife. Ladies and gentlemen, today, we're going to talk about something many suffer through in silence, something that leaves scars deeper than the eye can see. The title is, How a Narcissistic Husband Treats His Wife. And I want you to hear this with open ears, open hearts, and with a determination to never allow yourself or someone you love to settle for less than respect, love, and dignity. See, a narcissistic husband doesn't love in the way love was meant to be. He controls, he manipulates, he drains, and little by little, he tries to take away the very identity of the woman standing by his side. But here's the truth: you are not powerless. You have more worth, more strength, and more resilience than his words, his games, or his intimidation. Emotional manipulation disguised as love. Emotional manipulation is one of the most dangerous weapons in a relationship because it hides behind the mask of love. At first, everything may feel like a fairy tale. The affection is strong, the attention is constant, and the words are sweet. But soon, that very affection is turned into a tool of control. What looks like love is no longer love. It becomes a strategy, a system of pulling someone in and pushing them away to maintain power. A wife in this situation often finds herself on a never-ending roller coaster of emotions. One day, she feels like the most cherished person in the world. The next, she is left questioning if she even matters at all. That inconsistency isn't accidental, it's intentional. It keeps her chasing the high of the good days, hoping the affection will return if only she does more, tries harder, or becomes better in some way. But here's the truth: love is not supposed to be conditional. Real love does not vanish when it's inconvenient. Real love does not disappear when it's needed most. The manipulator knows this cycle keeps her hooked. It's like dangling a carrot in front of someone who is starving. By giving small doses of affection and then taking it away, he creates dependency. She becomes trapped in the mindset of, maybe if I change, maybe if I please him, maybe if I stay quiet, he will love me again. And in that cycle, she loses herself, her confidence, her independence, her voice. But hear this clearly: that is not love. That is manipulation. That is control. And it has nothing to do with the true meaning of partnership. Love builds, manipulation breaks. Love frees, manipulation chains. Love strengthens, manipulation weakens. For those listening who have endured this kind of treatment, understand that your worth has never been tied to how someone else chooses to treat you. The inconsistency of another person's affection does not determine your value. Just because someone withholds love from you does not mean you are unworthy of it. It only means they are incapable of giving it. The danger of emotional manipulation is how subtle it can be. Outsiders might not even notice. To the world, it may look like the husband is attentive, even romantic. But behind closed doors, the story changes. The silent treatments, the hot and cold affection, the guilt trips, all designed to keep her second guessing herself. And the longer this goes on, the more she begins to lose trust in her own instincts. But there is hope. The first step is recognition. Once a person sees the pattern for what it is, the cycle begins to lose power. The fog starts to clear. The lies no longer carry the same weight. Recognizing manipulation opens the door to reclaiming strength, voice, and freedom. The second step is boundaries. Love can never thrive where manipulation rules. Boundaries are the declaration that says, I will no longer accept this behavior, because I know my worth and I know my value. Setting boundaries may not change the manipulator, but it will change you. It will remind you that you are not powerless. You are not at the mercy of someone else's games. You have a choice, and the third step is self-worth. Understand that your heart was not created to be someone's playground. You were not put on this earth to live under the chains of another person's control. You are strong. You are capable. You are worthy of love that does not confuse you, but instead lifts you. So if you've ever been caught in this cycle, let today be the reminder. You do not need to settle for affection that comes and goes like the wind. You do not need to wait for someone else's approval to feel whole. You do not need to chase love Because real love never needs to be chased. It meets you where you are, as you are. True love is steady, it is dependable, it is safe, it does not manipulate, it does not confuse, and it does not take away your voice. And until you find that love, or create it within yourself, don't let emotional manipulation disguised as love hold you back another day. Constant criticism and belittling words can heal, and words can destroy. In a healthy relationship, words are used to encourage, to lift up, to celebrate, and to affirm. But when constant criticism and belittling take the place of encouragement, the home becomes a battlefield, and the heart becomes a casualty. This form of treatment is subtle at first. It might come across as a joke, a playful remark, or even as constructive criticism. But over time, the pattern becomes clear. Every conversation is laced with sarcasm. Every achievement is minimized. Every flaw is magnified. And little by little, the target begins to shrink inside herself, questioning whether she has any value at all. A wife on the receiving end of this treatment might wake up one day and realize she no longer recognizes the woman in the mirror. She once had dreams, passions, and a spark of confidence, but now, after enduring years of criticism, that spark feels dim. She hears the voice of her husband in her own head, reminding her of what she's not, instead of who she truly is. This is not harmless. Constant criticism is not just how he is. It is a systematic dismantling of another person's identity. It's a way of saying, if I keep pointing out her flaws, she'll never feel strong enough to leave me. It's about control, plain and simple. And here's the truth. No one thrives under the weight of constant belittling. When someone is made to feel small over and over again, they begin to accept smallness as their reality. They stop dreaming big, stop speaking up, stop believing they deserve more. But the good news is, belittling only works if you accept it as the truth. The moment you decide, I am not what those words say I am, the power of criticism begins to crumble. To anyone listening right now who has endured this kind of daily tearing down, I want you to hear me clearly. Your worth is not defined by someone else's words. You are not too much, and you are not enough. You are exactly who you were created to be, and no amount of belittling can erase the truth of your identity. Criticism may sound like it comes from authority, but it does not carry authority unless you grant it permission. A cruel word only sticks if you let it take root in your spirit. So instead of internalizing the lies, begin replacing them with truth. Where he says, "You're nothing without me," remind yourself, "I am whole on my own." Where he says, "You'll never succeed," declare, "I am capable, I am resilient, and I will rise." This is not easy work. Years of belittling leave scars, and healing does not happen overnight. But healing begins when you start to reclaim the narrative of your life. You are not the sum of someone else's insults. You are the sum of your resilience, your courage, your persistence, and your faith. It's also important to understand that criticism often reflects the critic, not the target. A husband who constantly tears down his wife is often projecting his own insecurities. His belittling is not about her flaws, it's about his fear of inadequacy. By making her feel small, he feels big. But that doesn't mean she has to stay small. The antidote to belittling is not to fight back with more insults, but to rise above it with self-assurance and strength. Set boundaries. Decide what kind of language you will no longer tolerate. Build a circle of people who remind you of your worth, who speak life into your spirit, who see the greatness within you when you've forgotten it yourself. Because the truth is, no one's voice should carry so much weight that it drowns out your own. You have a voice too, a voice of confidence, a voice of truth, a voice of power, and it's time to use it again. So if you've been living under constant criticism, I want you to make a decision today. No more. No more shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. No more doubting your worth because of careless words. No more silencing your own spirit because someone else can't see your value. You are not who the insults say you are. You are strong, capable, and worthy of respect. And the sooner you believe that, the sooner the words of belittling will lose their grip. Control over freedom and choices. Control is not love. It is fear disguised as care. In healthy love, freedom is honored, choices are respected, independence is celebrated. But in an unhealthy relationship, especially one where control is the foundation, freedom becomes the first thing to vanish. It often begins quietly. A husband might ask, "Where are you going?" or "Who are you talking to?" And at first it might sound like concern, but soon the questions turn into demands, the concern becomes surveillance. What started as curiosity becomes restriction. He doesn't just want to know where she is, he wants to dictate where she can go. He doesn't just ask who she talks to, he decides who she is allowed to see. And here's the dangerous part. Control often wears the mask of protection. He may say, "I just don't want you getting hurt," or "I care too much to let you make that mistake." But love is never about control. Love trusts, love allows freedom, love gives room for individuality. Control, on the other hand, cages a person until they forget they ever had wings. A wife living under control begins to feel like a prisoner in her own home. Her friendships start to fade because every phone call becomes an argument. Her dreams get buried because every decision is ridiculed or rejected. She begins to second guess every move she makes, wondering how it will be twisted against her. Slowly, her world becomes smaller and smaller, until the only reality she knows is the one her husband dictates. This isn't love, it's bondage. And the saddest part is that many women begin to confuse this control with devotion. They tell themselves, "He must really love me to want me all to himself." But real love doesn't need ownership. Real love doesn't suffocate. Real love celebrates when you thrive, not when you shrink. The need to control comes from fear and insecurity, not love and trust. A man who seeks to control his wife is terrified of losing power, terrified of her independence, terrified of the reality that she can exist and flourish without him. And so, he clamps down tighter, thinking that the more he controls, the safer his position becomes. But in truth, control only destroys connection. You cannot control someone and love them at the same time. For those listening who have lived under this weight, hear me clearly. Your freedom is not a privilege. It is a right. You were not created to live in chains. You are not a possession to be managed. You are a human being with the right to make choices, to pursue dreams, to live freely without fear of backlash. Breaking free from control begins with awareness. Ask yourself, do I feel free to make decisions without fear? Do I feel safe pursuing my goals? Do I feel trusted in my relationship? If the answer is no, then what you are living in is not love. It is control disguised as care. The second step is courage. Reclaiming your freedom will not always be easy. Those who control often push back when their grip is threatened. But courage means standing firm in the truth that you deserve respect and independence. Courage means deciding that your life is not meant to be dictated by fear. And finally, freedom is sustained through boundaries. You must be willing to say no more. I will not be silenced. I will not be caged. I will not let someone else dictate the story of my life. Boundaries do not make you selfish. They make you whole. They remind others where your dignity begins and where their control must end. Think about it. When a bird is placed in a cage long enough, it forgets what it means to fly. But the moment that cage is opened, instinct returns. The wings spread, the air feels new, the horizon becomes endless again. That is what reclaiming your freedom feels like. It may take time. It may take strength you didn't know you had. But once you taste freedom, you will never settle for cages again. So if you've been told where to go, who to talk to, and what to do for far too long, I want you to remember this truth. You are not powerless. You are not trapped. You are not a possession. You are a person with dreams, with choices, with freedom. And the day you choose to reclaim that freedom is the day the cage begins to break. Withholding empathy and support, one of the deepest wounds a person can feel in marriage, isn't caused by anger, harsh words, or even control. It's caused by silence. The silence of indifference, the silence of someone who refuses to care, the silence of withholding empathy and support when they are needed most. When a husband withholds empathy, he communicates a devastating message: your feelings don't matter, your struggles aren't worth my attention, your pain is not my concern. That silence cuts deeper than any argument ever could. Because in moments when a wife reaches out for comfort, she finds a wall instead of a hand. She finds distance instead of closeness. She finds coldness instead of compassion. And over time, that lack of empathy creates an emotional desert. She may still live under the same roof, but she feels utterly alone. She may still share meals and routines, but she feels invisible. She may still carry his last name, but she feels like she doesn't belong. And the longer this goes on, the more convinced she becomes that her needs are unworthy of being met. But here's the truth: needing empathy is not weakness. Wanting support is not asking for too much. Every human heart was designed to be known, to be understood, to be cared for. We were never meant to carry our burdens alone. Love was created to share both joy and sorrow, victories and defeats. When empathy is withheld, the very foundation of love begins to crack. Why does this happen? Because withholding empathy is a form of control. It says, I will not meet you where you are, because if I do, I lose power. It says, I will not acknowledge your feelings, because if I do, I have to admit you matter. So instead, he dismisses. He changes the subject. He calls her dramatic. He minimizes her pain. He creates an atmosphere where she feels guilty for even feeling. But let's call this what it is: cruelty. To deny another person's need for care is to deny their humanity. And yet, so many endure it in silence, believing they are asking too much, believing maybe they are too sensitive, believing maybe they should just stop needing. But listen to me, you are not too much. You are not too sensitive. You are not wrong for wanting love to be compassionate. The danger of living without empathy is that it begins to numb the heart. The wife learns to stop sharing her feelings because she already knows how the response will go. She learns to bury her emotions, to cry silently, to hold her own hand when life gets heavy. But while she may survive this way, she cannot thrive this way. No one can thrive when their emotional needs are ignored. So what's the path forward? First, recognize that your feelings are valid. You don't need anyone's permission to feel what you feel. Your pain is real. Your struggles are real. And your need for empathy is real. The absence of support doesn't mean your needs don't matter. It means the person withholding has chosen selfishness over compassion. That choice belongs to them, not to you. Second, remind yourself of this truth. You are worthy of support. You deserve someone who listens when you speak, who notices when you hurt, who shows up when you need strength. You deserve a partner who sees your tears and doesn't turn away. Third, seek out safe places for empathy. If it cannot be found in the marriage, find it in friendships, in mentors, in community. Surround yourself with voices that hear you, with hearts that care for you, with people who remind you that your feelings matter. Healing often begins when we allow ourselves to be seen and heard by those who truly care. And finally, reclaim your own compassion. Sometimes the hardest truth is realizing that you may never receive the empathy you wanted from the person you expected it from. But you can choose to give it to yourself. You can choose to nurture your own soul, to validate your own emotions, to care for yourself the way you always deserve to be cared for. Because empathy is not just about what others give you. It's also about what you give yourself. And when you learn to listen to your own heart, when you learn to honor your own needs, when you learn to support yourself with gentleness, you'll find a strength that no cold silence can take away. So if you've been living in a house filled with silence, if you've been reaching out only to find empty hands, I want you to know, you are not invisible, you are not a burden, you are not too much, you are worthy of empathy. You are worthy of support, and no one's indifference has the power to erase that truth. The illusion of charm in public. The mask behind closed doors, one of the most confusing realities of living with a narcissistic husband, is the split between who he is in public and who he is in private. To the outside world, he might appear charming, attentive, even admirable. He shakes hands with confidence, he smiles warmly, he tells jokes that make others laugh, and he paints the picture of being the perfect husband. People see him at gatherings and say, "You're so lucky to have him." But when the doors close and the guests leave, that charm evaporates, the mask drops, and the wife is left facing a completely different man. This is the illusion of charm. It's a carefully crafted performance designed to convince the world of his goodness while keeping her trapped in isolation. Because when everyone else believes he's kind, generous, and loving, who will believe her if she says otherwise? This duality is not accidental, it's intentional. It allows him to maintain control by silencing her voice before she ever dares to speak it. Living under this mask creates a profound sense of loneliness. Imagine carrying pain so heavy, but every time you try to share it, people look at you with disbelief. "But he's such a great guy. I can't imagine him being like that." The world sees one version of him, but she knows the truth. And that truth feels impossible to tell, because the mask is so convincing. This illusion also creates self-doubt. She starts to question her own reality. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he really is the wonderful man everyone else sees, and I just can't appreciate it. That self-doubt is the goal. If she questions herself enough, she won't question him. But let me say this clearly. The person behind closed doors is the real one. The mask is just a cover. True character is revealed in how someone treats you when no one is watching. And if the private treatment is filled with criticism, control, and coldness, no amount of public charm can erase that truth. This is why many women feel trapped. If they speak out, they risk being misunderstood or dismissed. If they stay silent, they carry the pain alone. It feels like a lose-lose situation, and that isolation is exactly what keeps them in the cycle. But here's the hope. Truth has a way of breaking through masks. No matter how polished the performance, eventually patterns reveal themselves. And more importantly, you don't need the world's validation to know your reality is real. Just because others can't see it doesn't mean it isn't happening. Just because he convinces the world he's charming doesn't mean your pain is an illusion. So what can be done in the face of this duality? First, trust your perception. You are not imagining things. The way he treats you in private matters more than the way he acts in public. If you feel unloved, unsupported, or belittled, those feelings are valid, even if the rest of the world praises him. Second, stop excusing the mask. It's easy to think, at least he's good to others, or at least he has a good reputation. But a reputation is not a relationship. Public praise means nothing if private love is absent. A true partner doesn't need a mask. He is the same person in public and in private. Third, find spaces where you can speak your truth without fear of dismissal. Whether it's a trusted friend, a support group, or a counselor, seek out people who understand that masks exist. People who will believe you when you say, "What you see out there is not what I live in here." Being heard and validated is the first step to breaking the silence. And finally, remember that the mask says nothing about your worth. His charm in public is not proof that you're unworthy in private. His performance is not evidence that you are exaggerating your pain. The mask is about him, not about you, and the moment you separate your worth from his performance is the moment you begin to reclaim your power, because at the end of the day, masks always crack. Pretenses always slip. Performances always end. But your truth remains, and when you stand in that truth, without apology, without doubt, without fear, you remind yourself and the world that no illusion can silence your reality. So if you've been living with a man who dazzles the world but dismisses you, hear this. You are not crazy, you are not alone, and you are not wrong for wanting love that doesn't need a mask. Real love is consistent. Real love is the same in public and in private. Real love doesn't hide behind charm. It shows itself in everyday actions, in quiet moments, in the honesty of home. We've walked through the shadows of what it means to live with a narcissistic husband, the manipulation disguised as love, the constant criticism, the suffocating control, the absence of empathy, and the mask of charm that deceives the world. These patterns are heavy, they wound deeply, and they leave scars that are often invisible to everyone except the one who bears them. But here's what I need you to hear. You are not powerless in this story. You are not defined by the cruelty you've endured. You are not bound to the cycle of pain that someone else tries to trap you in. You were created for freedom, for joy, for dignity, and for love that lifts you rather than breaks you. Yes, a narcissistic husband may try to silence your voice, but you still have a voice. He may try to shatter your confidence, but the truth of your worth cannot be erased. He may try to control your every step, but you were born with wings that were meant to fly. The cage is real, but the key is already in your hand. The key is the realization that you are worthy of more. Real love is steady, not manipulative. Real love is uplifting, not belittling. Real love is freeing, not controlling. Real love is compassionate, not cold. Real love is consistent, not masked. If what you're living does not look like that, then what you're living is not love. It's bondage dressed up as commitment, and you don't have to stay in chains. This isn't just about surviving, it's about reclaiming your life. It's about remembering who you were before the manipulation, before the criticism, before the silence, before the mask. It's about standing tall again and saying, I will not be defined by someone else's brokenness. I will not let their cruelty become my identity. I am stronger than this. I am worth more than this. I deserve better than this. And here's the most powerful truth of all. The moment you decide that you are worthy of real love, everything begins to change. You begin to see through the lies. You begin to set boundaries. You begin to rediscover your voice, your strength, your courage. And once you step into that truth, no mask, no criticism, no control can keep you captive. So stand firm, rise up, walk in the freedom that belongs to you, because you are not powerless, you are not invisible. You are not broken beyond repair. You are worthy of love that is real, and it's time to believe it.